Have you ever had that strange feeling that you're living in a science fiction movie but forgot to read the script? You know, that uneasiness that arises when you stop to think that your smartphone has more computational power than all of NASA had when they put men on the moon, but you use it mainly to watch cat videos and argue with strangers on the internet? It's as if we're running toward the future blindfolded, hoping not to crash into anything along the way. And maybe that's exactly what we're doing. Maybe our greatest weakness as a species isn't our dependence on technology, but our complete lack of emotional preparation to deal with the transformations we ourselves have created. Imagine a 5-year-old trying to pilot a supersonic jet. That's roughly how our ancestral psychology is handling the technological revolution of the 21st century. The truth is that we spent millions of years evolving in small groups of hunter-gatherers, developing brains specialized in detecting predators in savannas, and forming alliances in tribes of at most a few hundred people. Our emotional system was calibrated to respond to immediate and tangible threats like lions, snakes, or hostile members of other tribes. We developed very specific and useful fears for that world, anxieties that kept us alive when survival depended on quick reflexes and intuitive decisions based on direct sensory information. Our ancestors didn't need to worry about algorithms manipulating their emotions, viruses spreading through digital networks, or artificial intelligences making decisions that would affect billions of people simultaneously. But then something extraordinary and disturbing happened. In just a few centuries, a blink of an eye in evolutionary terms, we created a world that our psychology cannot adequately process. We began living in cities with millions of people, created economic systems that depend on abstract concepts like credit and inflation, and developed technologies that operate at scales and speeds that completely exceed our capacity for intuitive understanding. It's as if we had put a rocket engine on a horse-drawn cart and expected everything to work perfectly. Think about how you feel when you receive a notification on your phone. There's a small dopamine discharge, a slight anxiety, an almost irresistible compulsion to check what it is, even if you're in the middle of an important conversation or trying to concentrate on some task. Your ancestral brain interprets each notification as a possible threat or social opportunity that requires immediate attention. Because in the original environment for which we evolved, ignoring social signals could mean isolation and death. But now, these same emotional responses are exploited by algorithms designed to capture and monetize your attention. You're not simply using technology, you're being used by it, and your evolutionary psychology is the tool that makes this exploitation possible. And this is just the beginning. We're on the threshold of transformations that will make the Industrial Revolution look like a gradual and comfortable change. Artificial intelligence is evolving at exponential speed, promising to automate not only manual jobs, but also many cognitive functions we consider exclusively human. Machine learning systems can already diagnose diseases, compose music, write texts, and make investment decisions more accurately than human experts in many areas. Soon, we'll have AI assistants so sophisticated that it will be difficult to distinguish them from real people in conversations and algorithms capable of predicting our behavior better than we can ourselves. Simultaneously, we are developing gene editing technologies that will allow us to modify not only hereditary diseases, but also characteristics like intelligence, longevity, and even personality traits. Imagine the emotional implications of living in a world where some parents can literally buy genetic advantages for their children, creating a new form of inequality based not only on financial resources, but on fundamental biological capacities. How will our psychology, already overloaded by traditional inequalities, deal with the prospect of a humanity divided between the genetically enhanced and the naturally limited? Virtual reality and augmented reality are creating increasingly convincing parallel universes where people can live experiences that completely challenge our traditional understanding of what is real and what is artificial. Young people are growing up in digital environments where their brains are being literally molded by virtual interactions, developing new neural patterns that we as parents and educators formed in an analog world simply cannot understand or guide adequately. It's as if two different human species were evolving simultaneously, one digital and one analog, with increasingly divergent emotional and cognitive systems. And then there's the prospect of technological singularity, the hypothetical moment when artificial intelligence will surpass human intelligence in all relevant aspects, initiating a period of technological change so rapid and radical that it will become impossible for human minds to predict or control its effects. Some experts believe this could happen in the coming decades. Others are more skeptical. But even the most conservative recognize that we are entering completely unexplored territory in human history. The question that should keep us awake at night isn't whether these transformations will happen. They're already happening. The question is whether we're emotionally equipped to navigate them without losing our collective and individual sanity. And the honest answer, based on how we're dealing with current technological changes, is probably not. Look at the growing levels of anxiety, depression, and political polarization in the most technologically advanced societies. See how people are struggling to maintain meaningful relationships in a world of superficial digital connections. Notice how our capacity for concentration and deep contemplation is being eroded by environments designed to fragment our attention. We're facing what we could call programmed emotional obsolescence. Just as electronics manufacturers design products to become obsolete in a few years, forcing consumers to buy newer versions, our evolutionary psychology is becoming obsolete at an increasingly accelerated pace, but we don't have the option to upgrade. We can't simply download a new version of our emotional capacity or install a patch to fix our existential anxiety in the face of technological uncertainty. But perhaps this apparent fragility is also our greatest strength. Perhaps our inability to adapt perfectly to technological changes is exactly what will keep us human in an increasingly automated world. Our confusion, our anxiety, our desperate need for authentic connection and meaning may be the last bastions of genuinely human experience in a reality increasingly mediated by algorithms. The question isn't whether we should stop technological progress. That would be impossible and probably undesirable. The question is how we can develop emotional literacy adequate for the era we're creating. We need to learn to recognize when our ancestral psychology is being exploited or manipulated. We need to develop strategies to maintain our sanity in environments designed to capture our attention and drain our mental energy. We need to cultivate skills of reflection and contemplation that allow us to make conscious decisions about how we want to interact with the technologies that are shaping our lives. This means learning to create spaces of silence and digital disconnection, not as an escape from reality, but as a way to reconnect with our own values and priorities before returning to the technological whirlwind. It means developing mindfulness practices that help us distinguish between real needs and artificially induced desires by engagement algorithms. It means cultivating face-to-face relationships that anchor us in sensory and emotional experiences that no technology can completely replicate. Perhaps most importantly, it means recognizing that we don't need to have answers to all questions about the future. Our anxiety about the transformations that are coming is in part fueled by the illusion that we should be able to predict and control changes that are inherently unpredictable and uncontrollable. Accepting our ignorance about the future isn't a form of defeatism, but a form of humility that frees us to focus on what we can actually control, which are our emotional and behavioral responses to the present moment. Emotional preparation for the future doesn't happen by thinking obsessively about future scenarios, but by developing resilience and psychological flexibility in the here and now. It's learning to live with uncertainty without being paralyzed by it. It's cultivating the ability to adapt to changes without losing the sense of identity and purpose. It's developing deep human connections that can serve as emotional anchors regardless of whatever technological storms may come. I want to pause for a moment to ask you directly, you who are watching, do you also feel this tension between fascination and terror when you think about the future we're building? This feeling of being dragged by a technological current that you didn't choose nor completely understand? I know it can seem overwhelming when we stop to think about the speed of these changes, and often we prefer simply not to think, to dive into present distractions, to avoid anxiety about what's to come. But you're not alone in this struggle. If this feeling resonates with you, share your experience in the comments. It can be as simple as writing, I feel this tension when I think about the future because, and complete with your personal experience. Your reflection might be exactly what another person needs to read to feel less alone facing these existential challenges that we all face in the era of accelerated transformation. Actually, our capacity to feel anxiety about the future may be one of our greatest evolutionary advantages in a world of rapid changes. This restlessness we feel isn't a bug in our emotional system. It's a feature. It's our internal alert system telling us we need to pay attention, that we can't simply let things happen on autopilot. Existential anxiety may be uncomfortable, but it can also be a powerful motivator for developing the wisdom and skills necessary to navigate unknown territory. Consider that previous generations faced their own versions of seemingly impossible transformations. Our great-grandparents lived through the transition from agriculture to industrialization. Our grandparents navigated 2 world wars and the nuclear age. Our parents